This is Edo Executive Platform, a program that is designed to bring to bear the policies and programs of Edo State government under the leadership of Mr. Godwin Obaseki. It will also provide accurate information about the developmental strides of the government in all the sectors of the state. As the program unfolds, it will afford Edo people and of course residents in the state the opportunity to air their views and also contribute to the development conversation.
I will commit myself to them, and I'll use every ounce of strength that God has given me to work for my people of Edo State.
My name is Habiba Oyege Oyarekwa. Hello and welcome once again to another edition of the program Edo Executive Platform. Today we are going to be chatting with the head of the Edo State Government Strategic Planning Team. I'm talking about Professor Julius Ihonvbere, former Secretary to the State Government. Sir, you are welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
My name is Habiba Oyege Oyarekwa, welcoming you to the program. Sir, as the head of the Government Strategic Planning Team, could you just give an insight into the issues that fall under this portfolio?
All right. Well, after the inauguration, Governor Godwin Obaseki decided to set up the strategic planning unit, now strategic planning team, saddled with responsibility for, if you like, redesigning, refocusing, and realigning policies and programs to shape the future of the state. Essentially, we were initially saddled with designing a strategic program that would, for Edo State. And we had a strategy dialogue with all shades of opinion. And at the end of it, we produced a strategy document for the state. So today, Edo State is one of the very few states with a strategy document that goes from 2016 to 2020. And the whole idea is that we just cannot be working without a direction, without a roadmap. It's like building for yourself, getting a building plan that will let you know how many rooms, where the rooms will be located, and so on and so forth. Following that, the strategic planning team also organized targeted seminars and workshops for virtually each ministry. We had one on housing, we had on health, we had on the judiciary, we had one on basic education, on TVET, which is the technical and vocational education training. We had one on housing, that I can mention that, on agriculture, on local government, on town planning. In fact, a whole range of areas. And we brought in experts, professionals, not just Edo people, but wherever they were, institutions were invited. Many ministers attended some of these. So we came up from there with documents, strategy documents and reports for each of those areas which affected most of the teams. We were also saddled, along with the former head of service and the present head of service, to design, to look at the public and civil service, to realign it. And we submitted a report on that, where we recommended that some ministries had outlived their design responsibilities. It should be merged or taken out. We recommended some commissions. We looked at political appointments and created a whole new format for making political appointments to align them with the needs of the state. Since then, we have had several other consultations, and we do training for political officers, for new political appointees. We had one for the commissioners, had one for political appointments, SAs, SSAs, and special assistants. So those are the things we do generally. It's a planning team. You can call it a sort of think tank, looking at the ramifications and the implications of policies and programs, reevaluating public institutions, and trying to bring them up to date with contemporary needs within Edo State.
Talking about re-evaluation, We want you to tell us if economically Edo State is progressing or regressing.
Economically, Edo State is doing very, very well, I can tell you that. But you must place Edo State in the context of Nigeria. It is not an island of its own. If you give jobs to all unemployed people in Edo State today, there is nothing stopping unemployed people from Kogi, from Delta, from Rivers, from Ondo, from coming into Edo State. And by law, you cannot chase them away. The second is that we must place Edo and Nigeria in the context of a changing global economy, which is impacted by oil prices, by the movement of labor and technology and finance. So it is in that context that the luck we have in Edo State is that we are strategically located to benefit from the movement of persons, technology and capital from the sub-region. Whether you are going to any part of the South today and even the Southeast, you must pass through Edo State. So we are trying to position ourselves to take advantage of this strategic location. The second is that we have a governor now who, an offshoot of the Oshomole administration, is looking at the political economy with a special focus on growing and expanding the economy of Edo State to create jobs and let people earn real incomes and thereby impact on the quality of life. And I think the third, which is really amazing, is the unmediated, undiluted interest of people, investors or non-investors in Edo State. Like I said, we have organized about 25 to 26 workshops, seminars, and consultations. There is not one person we have invited from outside Edo State who has said, no, I'm not coming there. There is always this excitement. Oh, Edo, I'm coming. Obaseki is there, I'm coming. You inviting such and such a person? Yes, we're doing. They even give us other suggestions of people to invite. So this has been exciting. All the investors we invited to Alagodaro, the few that couldn't come were due to flight problems or some schedules that they could not change. People came from even outside the country. So if you put these three things together, what you notice in Edo, with the plans of Governor Obaseki, one is repositioning public institutions for efficiency, cut corruption, cut red tape. Two, setting up an ease of doing business committee and an investment bureau to serve as a one-stop shop to investors. So an investor does not have to deal with bureaucracies. Once you come into Edo, you have a one-stop shop. Everything you need is there. Reducing the red tape. If you need land, we have a land bank. We can give you land, and within a week, maximum, you should get all your papers. In Edo, we're providing the kind of leadership that is designed to focus on those areas that are productive. We are not emphasizing jobs in the civil service. The governor has made it clear, I'm not going to sack somebody unless you break the law. But our goal is not to now hire people into the civil service. Civil service jobs today is not the source of solutions. Rather, we want to grow the agricultural sector, expand the industrial sector. We're paying a lot of attention to technical and vocational education so that people can receive training, set up their own businesses, earn money, and live a better life than queuing up, walking about the streets with CVs where there are no jobs to be given. So in terms of productive capacity, Edo is making a lot of progress. We have companies here that are working on the area of power. Not just Azura, I know some more investments. We have Siemens. And right now, there is one coming up in Edo North that wants to build a huge plant for solar energy that will serve Edo State. And that is why we've signed a power purchase agreement to buy power that will service all government ministries and parastatals so that productivity can increase. So I would say that in terms of infrastructure, we are making good progress. In terms of capacity building, we are making progress. In terms of attracting investors, we are making good progress. In terms of expanding the agricultural sector, We are making excellent progress in that area. In terms of security, we are doing very, very well.
Now, at a time when a lot of states are experiencing a crisis, it's like Edo State is where, being able to weather the storm. And I must say that the compact team of Governor Godwin Obaseki should be commended. But what is the secret?
Well, the secret is not, it doesn't take rocket science to see it. First thing, is that we appreciate the workers and believe they must get their salaries as at when due. But because we have caught a lot of waste and blocked a lot of loopholes in the system, we have saved so much that we're able to plow into other policy options. Second, we are paying our contractors.
As at when due?
As at when due. In fact, we are begging them to submit their certificates in many cases, to say, you are working on the road, you've done the road, it's been inspected, you've prepared the papers, certificate issued, bring it, we will pay you. In fact, for many of them, there's a standing ISPO for them, so that once the certificate comes, they are paid immediately. The third is that we are not biting more than we can chew. Okay, we strategically plan what we need, how we need it, when we need it, who are our development partners, who are the drivers within the Edo State public and civil service, what are the expected outcomes, and how are we going to measure the performances and the outcomes to make sure they meet the goals we have set for ourselves. That is where the secret is. But it's not something you can just take and begin to do. You must have a strategic understanding of the import and implication of what you want to. For example, an investor wants to come here. We look at several factors. What is the backward and forward linkage in what you want to do? How many people are you going to employ? What sort of technology are you going to use? How much are you bringing in and how much do you need from Edo State? Is it a PPP arrangement or is it a turnkey arrangement? And how does it generate job in Edo State? These are some of the things we look at. We look at the environmental implications. We look at the security implications. Where our goal is to make sure that when an investor comes here, the labor you need are sourced internally as much as practicable.
You have painted me a picture as if you have not had any challenges.
Challenges are always there in any system. We don't have all the resources in the world. If you look at the charts for resource base in Edo State, we are low. But our IGR is better than more than 90% of states in the country. And why are people paying? Because they are seeing what we are using the money to do. They see the roads, they see the schools, they see water, they see improved electricity, they see the security architecture, they see the quality of leadership and the deliverable from the public and civil services. So it is not like somebody comes in and embezzles your money and you begin to complain. And this started from the Oshomole time. You remember in the second term election, it was overwhelming. He had 18 over 18 because Oshomole had touched every local government, almost every community in Edo State. So we are continuing with that tradition. Be accountable, be responsible, be accessible. And with that policy, your problems will be reduced.
Still to come, we are going to be talking about our relationship with international bodies like the World Bank and the Economic Union. Stay with us.
I will commit myself to them and I'll use every ounce of strength that God has given me to work for my people of Edo State.
You're welcome back. Now, sir, recently your office organized the sensitization program on accountability in governance, and you took the commissioners and heads of government agencies through the procurement process. Now, what was the wisdom behind this program?
Well, one of the things Governor Obaseki has been emphasizing is that we must learn to do things differently and doing things in a better way. Essentially, we had new commissioners come on board. Some permanent secretaries were appointed. But we brought everybody together and took them through our public procurement agency, through the procurement law, so that people would know what their limits are in terms of approvals, what they need to go through in order to, before you can make any procurement, either for your ministry or whether for any individual. Because the tendency for some public political office holders to say, we're not aware, we didn't know about this. And unfortunately, across the country, you find that this problem is always there. But in our case here, it is one way of cutting corruption and cutting waste. Because by the time it goes through the system and it is vetted and you gain approval, you are likely to identify what you may call padding or even an attempt to purchase what from outside, what is you can source locally. And whether it's been heavily inflated or it is a duplication of what's been done by another ministry or it's been done somewhere else. And I must commend that the Public Procurement Agency has been doing an excellent job in this area. And it is the same way we took them through the PPP options, so that you are prepared before an investor comes to you to want to enter into a PPP agreement. Because public-private partnership is always not as easy as it seems. But when you go through the process and you establish the parameters for such a partnership, both in terms of pre-establishment, during the establishment, and post-establishment, it reduces the sources of conflict and confusion and frustration by investors. So the entitlement is that it's only one part we're using. So we're also emphasizing the use of ICT, because what is documented and you can access it, and you cannot take the file and say it is missing or remove pages from the file, it means that you are establishing a whole culture of responsibility, accountability, and due process. That was why we did the PPP and the
loopholes are being blocked.
Effectively, I must say, effectively.
Now we are hearing of thematic pillars. Could you just break it down to the, to the level of the common man and what the Edo people stand to gain from this thematic pillars?
Essentially, what we did when we drew the strategy document for the state is to look at the entire gamut of what government does, and then try to aggregate this under some thematic pillars, like economic revolution. What do you do under economic revolution? Agriculture is there. Investments is there. The training of people in acquiring skills, they're also there. You look at the other area, which is social welfare. There you are talking about health. You're talking about disabled people. You're talking about the elderly. You're talking about provision of drugs. You're talking about even schools also in there. Schools, not just universities, but technical, vocational, which is one of the areas we're emphasizing, but basic, which is the area we give the most attention at the moment, because it is a broken system and we want to fix it, So we also have in there institutional reforms. There you talk about the civil service and public service. You talk about the judiciary, for example. You talk about reforming the administration of justice in the system. And even under the administration of justice, you can still break down into equal security establishments. What are we going to do to make this better, to make this work in line with other aspects of government in order to have deliverables that we can depend on and that will impact the lives of our people. So the thematic pillars are just guidelines. They're just to guide government to know if a policy is being initiated, into what area does it fall, and what are the sub-themes in that particular area, and how do we measure the investments and the deliverables.
Talking about reformation, are the people not fighting back, having been used to the usual way of doing things? Have you not heard of, okay, not be so with the drum for here, not be so with the drum, or, have you not had such challenges?
That's correct. There are people, you always expect some persons who will be resistant to change, particularly when the change is going to affect the ability to derive some surpluses, illegal surpluses, of course, from within the system. But unfortunately for them, we put in place proper technology, we put in place proper training, We've realigned certain institutions, and that is making it impossible for those who are fighting back to overwhelm the system. Therefore, we've established a training school here, for example. It's a training center in Government House here. We are prepared to move people from one area to the other where they will be more efficient. We are prepared to close down institutions that are moribund, that are actually producing negative results rather than positive results. We are prepared to provide training for people who need it in order to cope with the system and move forward. We have zero tolerance for corruption and waste and mismanagement and incompetence in the system. And we understand that not everybody will be able to follow at the same level. So those that cannot follow, we design what is it that they need to enable them to cope. And this is it's an ongoing process. We've not completed it. It is going to affect every aspect of governance. And we may not finish it in 4 years because it's such a huge thing. I'll give you a small example. We looked at our protocol unit. There are good men and women there who are working. But each time we have an event or something that requires their services, there is always some shortfall. So the strategic planning team called all of them together to have a conversation. What is the problem with protocol in Edo State? And what we found was amazing. Now, if we just assumed that protocol is not important, let's just focus on other units, we'll run into problems. The other area is we discovered that ministries are policy-making, policy-implementing units. But those that get the work done are the agencies and the commissions. So the SPT, reviewing this system, recommended, and the governor accepted, that where we need field work done, we need outreach work done, have a commission and an agency from a ministry to get the job done. Take Ministry of Sports. We used to have Ministry of Sports. You have a whole bureaucracy of civil servants and political appointees. Many of them never go near the stadium. They don't even do any exercise. They don't even understand the philosophy of sports. Some of them do not even understand the history of our achievements in sports. And we then looked at other states. We looked at other countries. We discovered that the states that are always in the top 5 do not operate Ministry of Sports. They have a sports commission run by professionals. And we have a sports council. You have half of the people, they're not doing any sports. And we have one policy that once you go to a tournament, you win a medal, you're automatically employee of the sports council. Which country does that? It's unreasonable. Even when they're no longer doing any sport, they are there collecting salary. So we recommended a sports commission. We then set up a committee made up of sports persons only, men and women, who have been to the field, sports administrators, sport marketers, say, tell us how to run the sports commission. They submitted the report to the government. And once this is implemented early in the year, Edo people will be amazed. For once, you will have a commission with professionals, with sportsmen and women who have an understanding of how a sports commission should work. Instead of setting up a big building, clerical officer, assistant clerical officer, director, deputy director, assistant, all these people, they're interested only in the file, not in the sports. That's true. Now we want people who will manage the files and manage the sports and give us the results we need.
That's all right. Now let's talk about our relationship with international partners like the European Union and the World Bank. What do we start to get from them?
We have always interacted with international organizations, either directly or via the federal government. Because in many cases, they come in with policies that they sign an agreement with the federal government and then they relate with states under such an agreement in bilateral or multilateral basis. But for Edo State, I think we occupy a very special place because of how we have performed again and again in, let's take an example, the World Bank programs. Edo and Lagos, I think, are the only two states that I have enjoyed the budget support from the World Bank because of the policies and programs we have already established and we have maintained. It includes accountability and transparency, your budget making process, your budget monitoring process, the establishment of required institutions like the procurement agency, how much you shown to put in place processes to check corruption and waste in the system. The EU has been here working on water projects. We have the C4, which is doing a lot of roads across the states. And we have remained #1 in Nigeria consistently, including this year, because of the prudent way, the level of accountability with which we have managed World Bank funds. So this is going to continue. Once you perform, they continue to work with you. It is when you do not perform, you cannot account for the money, that you begin to run into problems. The Australian High Commission invited us here. The High Commissioner was here. The Canadian High Commissioner has been here. The British High Commissioner, Deputy High Commissioner has also been here. The Italian Deputy Speaker of the Lower Parliament has been here. In fact, there is a rush by the international system through their embassies or directly to come into Edo State and see how they can partner with us in job creation, in training, in agriculture, in human trafficking issues, in health-related issues like HIV/AIDS and sickle cell. So Edo is doing very well in that area. We are not intending for the agencies to take over Edo State because we have a policy that guides our partnership with these agencies.
Talking about human trafficking, that's our fight against this trafficking. You know, we are hearing some pockets of complaints here and there that some of them are not happy to come back. Some parents are not happy that their children have been brought back and all that. Now, how do we restore the confidence in our people because of what the government is trying to do?
I think for human trafficking, it is sad. Part of it is misinformation, ignorance. There is some extent of greed. You know, some of them have degrees, some will have jobs, some have businesses. They sold it to go through the desert or allowed themselves to be trafficked into prostitution. A few were so young that they were made promises and they believed. You know, you have no skill, you have school certs with maybe some credits, and somebody says, I'll get you a job where you'll be earning over 500 a month abroad, and you believe such a person. It's a problem that we almost join hands to attack. And I think under Obaseki, we're giving it the kind of priority it deserves. But to build the confidence of people, we need a lot of public enlightenment. We need to educate people, children in schools from primary up, and I'm sure that a program is coming up now that will include that in social studies and other aspects of the schools. We need, and what we are doing to expand the economy, when people have real jobs and are earning good income, the tendency for them to say, given what I now know and what I have seen, let me manage what I have and try to make it better than going to risk my life on the high seas. You see, there's so-called push and pull factors. These people go out there without papers, and they are received. They're even patronized. So the first question is, what is the receiving country doing also? And I think Obaseki has taken this up, and that's one reason why he went to Italy. Because they're also culpable, whether it's the Italian government or whichever, they cannot wash their hands completely free. It's a give and take thing. Then we're also trying to track down those who are trafficking people from here, those so-called native doctors, fake native doctors who make people swear and put the fear of the devil in them. Yes. So I think we're doing things to track them down. But our policy to welcome them back shows that we worry, we have concern, we have empathy. They are our children. We want them to come home, receive training, receive counseling, receive assistance with reintegration into their families, and build a system that treats them as human beings, as people, as partners in progress than criminals or never-do-wells. I think any person against what Obaseki's government is doing right now is just being unnecessarily hypocritical. because, and it's probably because they have not met these returnees. But if they read, if you go on video and just Google or you watch the news, you see bodies floating on the Mediterranean, you will know that if your child was on that journey, you will do everything possible to bring that child back.
Are we going to provide jobs for some of them?
Well, training is what we provide first. Training. When you provide training and you provide counseling, you'll be able to reconcile some with their families. From that training, empowerment would follow. So I would not say we'll provide, where's the job? We're not recruiting just to give people to empower everybody. But those who are willing to be trained will receive training. Those who are willing to be rehabilitated, assistance with that, they will do. Those who don't even wish to go back to their families, you don't rush it. You know, reconciliation, you give time. It's a gradual process. We have steps to take care of all of these persons. And luckily, some philanthropists are kicking in. The federal government itself is showing concern. Some international organizations are also showing concern. Even training for those who have been trafficked, who now have papers, who are abroad. The investors who have come to Edo State and offered to partner with Edo State government to provide them with skills out there so they can be more useful to themselves there and not return to prostitution. So a lot is being done to make life better for the returnees.
And a lot is being done to make life better for Edo people. Thank you so very much, sir, for coming on the program. Well, we've been chatting with Professor Julius Ihonvbere, the head of SPT, Strategic Planning Team. We'll definitely bring you up again on this program. And with Obaseki's government, you have to change with the change. My name remains Habiba Oyege Oyarekwad. Thank you so very much for staying with us. Good evening.